become a de facto system of one-party rule. This transpired when then Prime Minister Hun Sen handed over the reins to his son, Hun Manet. As power consolidated, repression of opposition parties and civil society intensified. Opposition lawmakers and democratic activists have been fleeing abroad, some to Japan. But it is not just these individuals who are reaching our shores. So too are the long arms of transnational repression.
A group of Cambodians is marching in solidarity in Tokyo for their country's political freedom. About 23,000 Cambodians currently reside in Japan, and this country, along with the United States, has become a hub for diaspora activism. Cambodia's march toward democracy began in 1993, after decades of civil war. After an election, a coalition was formed, which included Hun Sen. But after mounting a coup in 1997, he has clung to power. Under his rule, repression of opposition and media has been relentless, inviting criticism from the West for a democracy in retreat. 2 years ago, Hun Sen handed over the seat of Prime Minister to his eldest son, Hun Manet, and named his third son Vice Prime Minister, tightening family control. Many are opposed, but the government harshly cracks down on demonstrations and criticism on social media platforms. These days, Cambodians living abroad are increasingly stepping up their activism, but at a cost. Mak Kimra is living near Tokyo. While working on a farm, he also headed a group supporting Cambodia's main opposition party at the time. It wasn't long before his wife back home, Leakhina, began being harassed by authorities, especially after the main opposition party was dissolved. So she fled to Japan, temporarily leaving their son with her mother.
People threw objects at my home, and my family was involved in a mysterious car accident. If I had not come to Japan, much worse could have happened.
With the buffer of being in Japan, she decided to begin speaking out despite the threats and harassment. She turned to social media to do so, uploading original content. Some of her videos have been viewed more than 1 million times, making her an influential voice among those urging democracy in Cambodia. Now, the couple feels it's too dangerous to return home. And so, they have applied for refugee status. At the same time, they worry about their 7-year-old son.
There isn't a single day when I don't think about my son. I am desperate to see him, but I cannot return home. The current government suppresses the freedom of its people. Even politicians in the country cannot speak freely. It is up to those of us living abroad to speak out and inform the world.
But even thousands of miles from home, Cambodian activists cannot necessarily escape repression. A striking example of this is what happened to the former leader of a pro-democracy group based in Japan. Last October, a shocking video appeared on Hun Sen's Facebook page. The apology was being made by none other than Vann, the former leader. After suddenly resigning, he re-emerged in a stunning reversal as advisor to Hun Sen. He accepted NHK's interview on the condition that he only talk about his decision.
I was involved in opposition activities and spoke out against the government. Looking back, I now regret some of my actions. I believe that rather than opposing the current administration, it is better to join it and start contributing in ways that I can.
What was behind the change of heart? Some point to Hun Sen's veiled threat directed at Van's family on national television. And there was also last year's police detention of his brother, who was trying to leave the country.
I strongly wanted to get my younger brother out of prison as quickly as possible. That is why I recorded an apology video, which I sent it to Chairman Hun Sen. Minutes later, the video was posted on Hun Sen's social media, and my brother was released. I'm grateful to Hun Sen for keeping his promise.
Van's case has shaken up the pro-democracy group. Its new leader, Tsuyuki Piada, talks about the devastating implications.
I had anticipated that something like this might happen, but when it finally did, it still shocked me. Deep inside, I felt a strong sense of fear. I wondered if eventually something similar would happen to me as well.
Since Van's capitulation to authority, more activists are holding back.
The number of people that show up to our demonstrations has significantly decreased. At its peak, 500 to 700 would gather, but after the Vann incident, the number has dropped to below 200.
To NHK's inquiry of the allegation of transnational repression towards Cambodian diasporas, the Cambodian embassy in Japan has yet to respond.
Now, I personally was completely unaware that the repression has crossed borders, reaching the Cambodian community here in Japan and casting a shadow over their lives. We have Professor Ichihara Maiko, an international political scientist, joining us today to tell us more. Professor Ichihara, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So you've spoken with the Cambodia diaspora. Do you see transnational repression increasing within these communities?
Well, unfortunately, yes. There has been repression going on, well, up until recently too, but these days there has been an increased surveillance going on. And those intimidation intends to attack people, activists mentally, so that they won't be able to continue their activities.
And would you say other resident Asian activists also experience transnational repression?
Yes, unfortunately, this has become very much an international trend. So in addition to Cambodians, well, for example, Chinese government has been harassing well, the activists beyond borders, and also people like regime like Pakistan has been doing the same. And in addition to those authoritarian countries, some democracies are doing the same. For example, India has been harassing journalists, opposition party leaders, NGO leaders, as well as scholars who are critical of the Indian government, especially on democracy and human rights fronts.
And we just saw in the report how some governments control people outside their borders. Could you tell us more about how governments do that?
There are actually multiple methods that they use, and some of the methods include, for example, the creation of surveillance network. China well, is a typical example. Chinese students create these Chinese student associations on campuses, and some of them have connections with the Chinese embassy in Japan. And with this connection, the Chinese embassy tries to control the Chinese scholars and students on campus. And other methods include, for example, indirect intimidation, where the regime gives harassment and